Senator Lambert.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would just like to maybe ask a question of the distinguished senator from Northwest Colorado in Senate District 8. You know, I take high offense when you come up here to the well and talk about knee-jerk reactions.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and distinguished colleague, whose name I shall not mention. I'll try to refrain from making any more comments about those knee-jerk reactions.
Well, thank you. I just wasn't sure. Thank you,
Looks
Mr.
like
Chair.
I wasn't sure.
Sure.
You want to continue?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure if he was talking about the knee or the jerk, but you know, our good senator from Berthoud made an absolutely compelling argument that this type of technology in this bill is defined as any magazine in Colorado. Possession of any magazine is illegal, and therefore any rifle, any pistol, anything you use that can be adapted with this technology is also illegal. So we're not making too much progress on that. So I think maybe let's turn and talk about exemptions. I came up here a little while ago and asked about how, I mean, it's a question of trust. Let's play a little game here. Who do you trust? Do you trust people that protect our country, that are trained with military equipment to protect us overseas and to protect us here in Colorado? Do you honestly trust, or do you not trust members of our military and former members that have been trained with standard capacity weapons, even automatic weapons, that we're not talking about today? We're talking about semi-automatic, but I mean, if they're trained to use exactly the same magazines in fully automatic military weapons, why should they not be allowed to maintain their readiness for our country here within the United States? I move Amendment L032. Ask that be read at length.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment L0?
I only have one copy.
32.
Amendment L032 to House Bill 1224 by Senator Lambert. Amend re-engross bill, page 4, strike line 16 and substitute subsection 5. An active duty reserve National Guard or Coast Guard member or honorably discharged veteran of the United States Armed Forces, Reserves, National Guard or Coast Guard, or members of their families, or, and renumber succeeding subparagraph accordingly.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L032 again. Members, this does not take out the current exemptions. It adds one more exemption that says if you're on active duty in this state, even in a private capacity, if you've been trained with these weapons, you should be able to have at least a magazine that's compatible with the legal rifles, legal pistols that you already own. I also added members of our National Guard, which are not currently exempted in this bill, because it's talking about active duty military forces, and I don't think the way it's defined, I don't believe, covers the Colorado National Guard, who should always be ready. Plus our honorably discharged veterans of the United States Armed Forces and their families. It's a simple amendment, and I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for a no vote. Yes, these are all great and wonderful people, but that some of them come back with significant mental health problems, and I think we need to check through that first.
Senator Lambert.
Mr. Chair, I really object to this stereotypical viewpoint that all military veterans, all military retainees or returnees have mental health problems.
Senator Hodge.
Yes, there is. Excuse
Sorry.
me, I have the floor, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. There was a long pause. I apologize. Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, our active duty military people suffer from traumas of war. They have since the Civil War. They've gone through battle fatigue. They've gone through soldier's disease in the Civil War is what they called it. But to stereotypically say we're just going to have a blanket policy in this state saying that military veterans who, if they have mentally deficient problems or if they have traumatic stress and they have been diagnosed, they're not eligible to get weapons anyway. It's already part of the law. It does raise a point. Are we doing enough for our veterans? Maybe not, but that's not part of this bill. But please don't stereotypically identify military veterans and active duty members as being disqualified for arms ownership simply because they've served our country.
Senator Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did not say all had mental problems. I said some.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And of course, that exemption is understandable. Again, not part of this resolution. Let's start out with people we should trust in our country. If the bill sponsor would like to put in another clause or put in an amendment, I'd be glad to have that. If by law people have been suffering from combat stress of some sort, that is a disqualifying problem in this bill, maybe we should consider that. However, think of the chilling effect on active duty members living in the state if the state's going to say any time that you may come back from overseas with post-traumatic stress syndrome, we're not going to let you have a weapon. They will never self-identify for counseling, for mental health counseling or anything else in the state of Colorado or perhaps anywhere else in the United States. Let's have a little more enlightened viewpoint about our veterans.
Senator Hodge.
Thank you. I would be happy to work on that amendment with you, esteemed Senator from Colorado Springs. In the meantime, I ask for a no vote on this one.
Senator Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, members, I am profoundly disappointed with the way this discussion has turned. Remember that a lot of military personnel that return from a deployment where there are people every single day trying to kill them, the enemy trying to kill them, they come home, they are often not home for very long before our country calls them back to the same battlefield or to a different battlefield. So if they are sane enough to fight for our country again on another deployment, why wouldn't they be able to be trusted with a weapon here in the United States of America, where we are supposed to have the right to have a weapon? So our military personnel come back to Fort Carson, or they come back to one of the other installations in our state. They're often not here for very long before our country calls them back again. So if you want to say that some of our military personnel have mental problems, I believe that was the quote that we're going to settle on, I'm not comfortable with that quote. I think we should completely back up this conversation. We are going down a bad road here. We should have nothing but enormous respect for our military personnel and understand the fact that they are supremely qualified to handle a weapon because they have received hundreds of thousands of dollars from our country, from our government, from our Department of Defense on how to use weapons properly. No one knows more about weapons than those that have served in the military. So they're the only ones that we could say are completely qualified in every respect on every weapon system that they were trained to be qualified on. There are many people that become qualified in the civilian world. We should be protecting the Second Amendment rights for all of them. This amendment is simply trying to help military personnel. Remember that their families had to withstand the awful separation while they were gone, wondering every night whether or not they're going to be killed. And those families live right here in our communities, whether they be out in Aurora with families that are at Buckley or Colorado Springs with Peterson and everything down there with Fort Carson. Those families are here. They're all Coloradans. They're Americans and they've served our country. Let's show them some respect.
The motion, Senator Lambert.
Ask for an aye vote.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L032. A division has been called. All of those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L032. All those in favor, please stand. Please be seated. All those opposed, please stand. The motion fails. Back to the bill. I have Senator King in the queue.